Hello and welcome to the AfterBurners Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel Oney, and this is episode 15. With me is Wes Spearman. Wes, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, thanks, Sam. Been a bit busy lately, but yeah, good to be chatting F1 again. How are you?
I'm great. The sun is shining. The Euros have started. England got off to a great start. And most importantly, racing is back. Formula
Race
One is
week,
back after 2 weeks,
triple header as well.
starting in France. But before we get to France, I want to take you back 2 weeks. 2 weeks?
Yeah,
2 weeks,
been a
yes.
while.
No, it's been a while, it has. But I want to take you back to Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, Baku. Boy, was it amazing.
I know.
I
What a
mean,
race!
what a
What a
race it
race!
was. We had crashes. We had uh, rivalries all over the grid. And we also had a very, very unique podium coming at the end. But let's start off with, well, the race. Where's, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, well, it has been a while. I struggle to remember a few things, but I mean, I feel a little bit bad for Charles Leclerc because he got pole and then
Oh,
sort of slipped away at the start. I think Hamilton got the better start. Hamilton was leading for most of the race, I think, from what I remember. Um, yeah, I feel a bit gutted for Leclerc because he just deserves a win. He's been out driving the Ferrari pretty much for the whole of the year so far, and he just deserves something, whether it be a podium or a race win. But yeah, credit to Hamilton for getting off to the good start, and then we went into some tyre failures, which we'll get onto in a minute, and then yeah, what a podium at the end of the race. No one would have
yeah,
predicted that going into the weekend. I know Baku has thrown up a few oddities, I suppose, in the past when he had Lance Stroll on the podium, the youngest podium. City had Perez on the podium in a Force India, I think in 17 or 18. And it's just completely crazy, Baku. And I don't know why, but it just seems to throw up good racing every year.
definitely. And yeah, I feel for Charles Leclerc because it all started in Monaco. He qualified for pole position, then he had his crash, he couldn't start the race. It just hasn't worked out for him, has it? And then, as you said, Baku started on pole again, and now he slipped. He was just slipping from first, second, third, fourth, outside the podium places. And yeah, hopefully it works out for him in France though this weekend.
Yeah, hopefully.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Well, there isn't a Baku race without crashes.
That's some, yeah.
Now, Lance Stroll of Aston Martin, he crashed on lap 16. Was it 16? I think it was
It's
16.
fairly early
Anyway,
on, from what I remember. Yeah.
yeah. He crashed on lap 16 into the barriers, and it was a very, very hard impact crash. I
Mm.
mean, when you look at it, his front right tire like completely went off, and yeah, it's caused some questions about the Pirelli tires. And
Mm.
if you think that wasn't big enough, championship leader Red Bull's Max Verstappen, he crashed as well, 200 miles per hour, and his whole tire blew up as well. Not very good. Not very good.
Well, that's putting it politely, I suppose, because Red Bull, I think they said, had no warning of that tyre failure on Verstappen. That all their data was pointing to the tyre was good. It could do a certain number of laps more. And then all of a sudden on the back straight, pretty much, well, just a little bit further up the road from where Stroll's tyre burst. And from what I don't think he ran over any debris. I think he actually stayed quite clear of that. I think the communication from his team was actually pretty good, pretty clear. Unlike Nicholas Latifi's telling him to stay out of the pit lane, but stay out means you stay on track. And yeah, Latifi got some penalty points for it. Um, But yeah, it's not a good sight at all when you have well, especially when you have no warning that the tire is going to fail, because you're pelting down that back straight 200 miles an hour, and then you just feel a little judder, because we could see it happening on the sort of the onboard camera, where the steering wheel was just starting to judder a little bit, and then all of a sudden, less than a second later, the tire's gone and Verstappen goes sideways into the wall. And it was a good job he didn't go pretty well forwards into the wall next to the pit lane, which was quite sort of straight on. He would have hit it, sort of T-boned it essentially, and that could have been seriously disastrous. Verstappen could have been, well, he could have had life-threatening injuries, to be perfectly honest. So it was a very lucky escape that he did manage to. I wouldn't say control the car, because what control he would have had, I don't know. But it was lucky that the car sort of swerved off to the right rather than over to the left, and not only into the path of other cars, but also into that sort of quite straight on pit lane barrier. And I mean, yeah, Stroll as well. I don't think Aston Martin had much warning about that. So, whatever caused those issues, I'm sure Pirelli would have looked into. I'm not quite sure
Yeah.
what caused them yet, but I think it was the same tyre as well, the front right. It was the same tyre that went on both cars. It was interesting that they were the only two cars to have that problem. No other car in the field had a tyre failure, and I think McLaren went over the radio to Michael Massey. Is it Mike Massey, the
Race director.
race director? Yeah, saying, look, we need to, whilst we're sort of tidying up the debris from the Verstappen crash, we need to red flag the race, get the cars into the pit lane to change the tyres so they're all actually definitely safe to go out again, and to carry on racing. And I think that was the right call from McLaren, because if it happened to two cars without any warning, then who knows what could have happened if they continued out. I think it was the hard tyres that they were both on. And yeah, it's just not good from Pirelli at all. I mean, as a spectacle, and I don't want to make this sound too dark, but as a spectacle, it looked all right, because you get crashes, and it actually made the race a little bit more interesting. But from a safety point of view, and a driver and a team point of view, it's absolutely horrific that something like that could happen with no warning, putting the drivers who are going 180, 200 miles an hour full throttle down that start-finish straight, have them get no warning, crash into the wall at extremely high speed. It puts the drivers' lives in danger. And yeah, Pirelli need to do something about that, because I mean, safety has come on leaps and bounds in Formula One, particularly in the last 10 years or so. But yeah, it's just to have no warning about a tyre failure is very, very poor from Pirelli there.
And like Pirelli themselves as well. I mean, when you look at the crash, you can visibly see the markings on Verstappen Stroll's car. Not just they're not clean as they used to be. Like, before starting the race, you can visibly see they've been scratched and whatnot. Do you think Formula One would benefit having a second tire supplier other than Pirelli, or do you think we're just gonna stay with Pirelli? They're gonna investigate a problem, and they're not gonna hopefully have another problem like this again?
I think, well, I'm pretty sure Formula One will stick with Pirelli, because I think they're quite a big sponsor. They give the FIA and F1 a lot of money to be the sole tyre supplier of Formula One. But then going back to sort of the Bridgestone and Michelin days, I think it was back in, well, probably about 15 years or so ago now. I suppose it did offer a bit more strategy, but I think even back then, most teams ran either Bridgestone or Michelin. I can't remember which one. I think it was about 3/4 of the field ran on one tyre and 1/4 on the other tyre. So even then, it was still fairly unanimous, I suppose, as to what tyre that they would be racing on. But Pirelli, particularly over the recent years, have had a little bit of trouble with their tyres, because we saw that Silverstone last year when Hamilton had a blowout on the last lap and Verstappen was 30 seconds behind and nearly caught him to win either the British Grand Prix or the 75th anniversary Grand Prix. And in that race, someone else had a tyre blowout. I think it was one of the Alpha Tauris, off the top of my head. It might have been Gasly, actually. So whether the teams are doing something wrong or Pirelli's doing something wrong, we've seen punctures, tyre failures, not often, but enough that something needs to be done. Because particularly in the last years, we've had the two blowouts essentially in Azerbaijan, and the year before at Silverstone we had at least two punches there when the tyres were, yes, they were reaching the end of their lifespan, but the data showed that they would have lasted another few laps just to get the cars over the finish line till the end of the race. So whether someone in Pirelli has got their calculations wrong over the last year or two, I'm not too sure, but it doesn't look good for Formula One when you've got all the data saying, yeah, these tyres will last, the tyres are looking good, and then a split second later, the tyre's gone, the car's in the wall. It doesn't look good for Formula One and Pirelli at all.
I mean, for me, to answer my own question, I think Formula One could benefit from having a second supplier as well, other than Pirelli, because I mean it provides safety as well for the tires, and also maybe less likelihood of like a big high-end crash, because as you said, you know, going 200 miles max per hour and you're hitting the side of the wall and your front right tire goes off. I mean, that's a big issue. And then the tires as well. It questions the reliability, doesn't it? As like, as a race engineer, when you're putting the tires on, you're going to be asking yourself, will these tires do the job? Because you want them to do the job. So, I mean, it would, but yeah, well, that's it.
Yeah.
So
I think one issue
with
with two tyre suppliers is we don't want another example of I think it was the 2006 US Grand Prix where only 6 cars started the race because I think it was Michelin, the tyres couldn't handle the high-speed banking of the Indianapolis circuit. So every car on, I think it was Michelin's, pulled into the pits at the end of the formation. That said, no, it's not safe enough to race. And then the other 6 cars, the 3 teams that were actually on Bridgestones or whatever manufacturer it was, they went and raced. And we don't want another repeat of something like that. So if there are going to be 2 tyre suppliers, I'm fairly sure there won't be, but if there are, then just don't have another US 06 or 07, whatever it was. I can't quite remember. But we just don't want that to happen again, or any tyre failure to happen again. We don't want to put these drivers in any more risk than they are driving these cars.
Yeah. So so a lot of crashes, but another thing I want to talk about is Mercedes. Now, again, Lewis Hamilton and also Max Verstappen, 2 championship rivals, coming into the race. Well, yeah, coming into the race, Verstappen won at Monaco, but Hamilton, it was all going well, I could say, to a point, up until lap 51. I think after that Verstappen crash, I think that at that point, that was the whole story of Azerbaijan changed.
Yeah, I agree.
It changed the whole story, because when Verstappen crashed and Hamilton, he also didn't have a good pit stop as well, almost 5 seconds in the pits.
Yeah, he got held
not
up.
Very good. Not very good. But upon the restart as well, after Verstappen's crash, I'm sure you noticed if you watched it, but Hamilton's front tires were up in smoke. Not like on fire, but there was smoke coming from the tires. And also, there was something to do with his steering wheel as well, like some sort of magic
The magic
button,
button.
which I don't know the technical term for it, but it was
I'm
along
fairly sure.
those.
I think magic button is it's fairly technical.
Yeah, all right, we'll go with that then. So apparently he flicked. So on the restart, Hamilton, goes on the start line, but instead of going into turn one, he immediately locks up and he goes off road, which causes him to finish 16th in the race. But his magic button on the steering wheel, which caused the brakes to, well, something to do with the brakes, yes, which caused it to lock up, and so he completely gone off track. How what's the question? How big was that? Changing the whole race and also changing the championship standings.
Well, it didn't really do much for the championship because
Mm,
neither Hamilton or Verstappen scored any points that weekend. But
yeah,
it did change the race quite a bit because if Hamilton had won that and he was looking like he was going to win for most of the race, then was you'd have the lead of Verstappen again, put pressure back on Verstappen to come back in France this weekend. But yeah, I mean, it provided us with great entertainment because it was literally a one lap shootout at the end, wasn't it? Because
yeah.
all the stars were lined up, all the cars rather, not stars, were lined up on the grid after, was it the safety car or a red flag or something after Verstappen's car? I think it was a safety car.
Safety
Um,
car, yeah.
yeah, and as you say, Hamilton's, I think it was the brakes were just pouring with steam or smoke or something because they were so hot. And I think Hamilton did get the better start. Perez sort of tried to nudge him in by pushing him into the pit wall a little bit. And then, yeah, Hamilton locked up, went straight on into the runoff zone. Um, yeah, dropped back down to below the Haas's. It's the first time Nikita
Wow.
Mazepin can say, "Yeah, I beat a seven-time world champion." But
Oh,
yeah, with the magic button that he hit, whether it did something to the brake bias or something, or it affected the brakes in some way.
yeah,
But you think a seven-time world champion, how can you do that? Just a button in the top left-hand corner of the steering wheel. How can you? It was obviously an accident. He obviously didn't mean to
yeah,
do it,
yeah,
and but it just gave us a brilliant last lap because we had Perez in the lead, we had Sebastian Vettel in second place, Gasly in the Alpha Tauri in third, and then we had, was it Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris battling out for fourth and
yeah,
fifth place. It was a brilliant,
yeah.
brilliant last lap,
Brilliant.
and then
Absolutely amazing.
yeah, we got Perez winning his first race for Red Bull, his second for, well, his second win of his career, and the first driver in this hybrid era since 2014 to win a race for two different teams, which I think is brilliant. Sebastian Vettel's got four different podiums for four different teams. Again,
That's
another
amazing.
amazing stat. And I suppose it goes to show just how dominant Mercedes have been, or I suppose just how little driver changing there's been since
Yeah,
2014. Um, yeah, I mean, what a win for Perez. He had a good race. Don't get me wrong, but if it wasn't for Hamilton locking up going into turn one, then he would have been on the podium, and I think that would have been, would it have been his first podium for Red Bull? I can't remember.
yeah. It would
Yeah,
have. Yeah,
it would have been. Yeah,
yeah.
and then yeah, Sebastian Vettel on the podium for the
Oh,
first time in
oh
quite a
my
while. I mean,
goodness.
what a race he drove!
Oh my
It was just
goodness.
brilliant to see him on the and Gasly as well. It was
So
just
Perez wins. Yeah,
yeah,
Perez wins in Azerbaijan. Vettel for second, and then Pierre Gasly takes the third and final spot. What a podium that is.
brilliant
How
podium.
impressed? How impressed have you been with Vettel so far this season? From when he moved to Aston Martin up until now, how impressed have you been with him, considering all the
Uh,
troubles he's had with the
yeah,
car?
yeah. Aston Martin, they weren't strong really at the start of the year because we thought, well, if this year is going to be anything like Racing Point last year, then they'll be up there at the top of the midfield. But they really weren't. They were really off the pace for the first few races, and then and yeah, just the last couple races have just really shown have just shown that Vettel has. He's obviously way beyond what he was in his Red Bull days, but he has still got it because we saw. Well, I was going to say we saw the overtake on Gasly in Monaco, but they cut to Lance Stroll jumping over some curves in Monaco. But yeah, he drove a brilliant race last Sunday, and yeah, I can only see him just helping develop that Aston Martin car more. And he's obviously gotten used to it now.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see more points finishes, maybe some more top 5, top 6 finishes for Vettel. And I think that's only because he's a great guy, Sebastian Vettel. Everyone loves Sebastian Vettel. I mean, I wasn't too keen on him in Red Bull because he was winning everything. But now I can appreciate him for the brilliant driver that he is. And yeah, he makes a mistake every now and then. But look at Lewis Hamilton on the weekend. He made a mistake, finished outside the points for the first time in over 50 races. I think Hamilton. He had one of the longest points streaks in Formula 1.
55 points.
55, yeah.
55, yeah. 55. Wow. Baku, Azerbaijan. It always produces.
It always
6
throws
races.
Something.
Oh my goodness. Probably my favorite race so far.
I'd agree.
Definitely. Now 6 races down, on to number 7, France.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Le Castellet at the Paul-Ricard. As you can see by my background, I am in France.
Looks a bit hypnotic out of all the blue lines and.
Oh, see, this is why I asked you a few days ago. How would you describe the Paul-Ricard? And you said daunting, colourful, and what was the other one?
I said boring, dull, and colourful.
Boring, yes. I mean, WTF were also saying the track looks hypnosis as well because of the red and because of the blue runoff as well. I mean, my eyes are spinning even looking at it.
It hurts. It's painful. It's not only the track that's painful to look at, it's the racing as well, because for the last few years it's been very, very boring.
Yeah.
The French Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And whether they have to have it at Paul-Ricard, whether they can host it at Magny-Cours, which hosted the French GP before, I don't know. But yeah, I'm expecting much of the same this weekend. Yeah. I'm not expecting it to be a thriller at all. Whether they can change the track layout onto another one of the Grade 1 layouts that Paul-Ricard had, because it's got so many different track layouts essentially. If they could race on another one of those layouts, that might make it a bit more exciting. But I just think it's going to be most of the same. I think Mercedes will win. Red Bull second, and then a toss up between McLaren and Ferrari for that sort of 4th, 5th, and 6th places.
I mean, we didn't do predictions, but okay. So I asked you, who's your pole sitter for this race? Remember, Hamilton and Verstappen both need it. As a matter of who needs it more, I couldn't really say who, because both of them need it that badly after what happened in Azerbaijan. So who's your pole sitter?
I kind of want to throw a curveball and think outside the box a little bit and go for one of the Ferraris, but I just think Paul-Ricard suits the Mercedes that much. I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton. I think Bottas, no way. He's having a dreadful season so far. And I think Hamilton will come back this weekend, get the race win as well, I think. Driver of the day, I'm going to go Daniel Ricciardo. One of the McLarens. I think he had a decent race last time out in Azerbaijan, and I think he had an all right race from what I remember last time out in France. So yeah, let's go for it. Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren driver of the day.
Yeah. Driver of the day is always a hard one.
It's just a lottery. You can't really guess at all.
Honestly, you cannot put it on like who's gonna. So pole sitter, even pole sitter race winner, I don't even know. I don't know who to go for, Hamilton or Verstappen. See, the troubling thing is, other than those two, you can never see anybody else winning it.
Yeah.
So okay, so I think I'm gonna agree with what you said. Hamilton for pole sitter and race win. I'm just not sure if Verstappen's car can take the Paul-Ricard circuit. It can produce a good race, but maybe second for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pole sitter Hamilton, race winner Lewis Hamilton, driver of the day. It's a ridiculous one, but I'm just gonna
Just
go out
guess.
there and
Just
say
pick
it.
one.
I'm gonna go with Ferrari's Carlos Sainz. I just think
Yeah. Not a bad shout.
he's
Yeah.
had a not bad season. He's had a pretty good season. So yeah. Oh, and bonus question.
Oh.
Well, two bonus questions. Number one, where do you think Sebastian Vettel will finish in the French Grand Prix?
Eighth. I'll go eighth.
Eighth.
I reckon he'll get points, but I don't think he'll be top end of the midfield.
Okay. I think eighth or ninth. Yeah, I'll probably agree.
Yeah.
No. Oh yeah, eighth or ninth. Yeah, eighth place. Second question: who will finish higher? Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, and if some point, Daniel Ricciardo. Who will finish higher? Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo.
That's tricky. I don't think it'll be Stroll. I think it'll be between Gasly and Ricciardo. And going on form, I mean, even though I picked Ricciardo as driver of the day, I think Gasly will still finish ahead of him. I think Gasly's got a good chance of being top 6 actually this weekend. There's home race as well.
Oh
so
yeah.
A bit of extra motivation, bit of extra drive from Gasly, and he's just performed so well. He's always there or thereabouts in qualifying, and the race pace sometimes lets him down a little bit. But I mean, McLaren have got a better car, I think, than AlphaTauri. But he's just such a strong driver.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be on for a top 6 finish actually, Pierre Gasly.
Yeah. Pierre Gasly, Daniel Ricciardo, Lance Stroll. That's probably how I see it.
That's the order.
Yeah. And then lastly, just before we finish off quickly, Formula E's back, and they are off to Mexico. Puebla E3 in Mexico.
Yeah, it's a slightly different layout. This year. I think they made it more of a street circuit rather than using the sort of stadium section of the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. I think is the F1 track. They use a little bit of the F1 track and then go. I don't really know where they go. I don't know how the track works, but I think they made it more of a street circuit. And this time, it's really interesting. It's what Formula E is known for. It's what it's used to. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I might actually be able to watch it this weekend.
Yeah, same here. I'm looking forward to it. I think it almost looks like an oval circle shape.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
When I was looking, very excited to see that it's back. I finally figured out the team that I'll be getting behind after 4 races so far.
Who is supporting?
DS Techeetah.
Yes, Techeetah. Yeah. They are a good team. They've got 2 good drivers, John Vernon and Antonio
Felix da Costa. Yeah.
I'm going Jaguar.
Yeah.
I nearly drove past them the other day playing cricket a couple of weeks ago. I was meant to turn left to go to the ground I was playing at, but went straight on, and there was this roundabout, and then right on the right hand side was Williams, and then just up the road was Jaguar. So
their headquarters?
Yeah, they're based in Montague Grove. Yeah.
Lucky you.
Did a U-turn back round the roundabout, and actually got back on track to get to the cricket ground. I saw the Williams factory for quite a few years actually. Not been down there for a while.
That's really good. That's really good. How cool it would be to live quite
half an hour drive away.
Yeah, to live near a Formula One or Formula E headquarters. That is brilliant. And finally, we've both heard, but McLaren, McLaren will be entering Extreme E next year, 2022. That is really exciting. We get to see more racing, a big name from Formula One, and potentially, or well, it will be a fact, we are likely going to have another female driver, a McLaren
Yeah,
fem- a McLaren female driver in Extreme E.
yeah,
As a matter of
yeah.
who, nobody knows.
We can't really speculate on who the drivers are going to be because
Yeah,
I doubt it'll
for
be.
both of them.
Yeah, because it won't be any of the. It won't be Lando Norris or Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh, no, no,
Actually,
no.
I'm pretty sure on that. Whether McLaren have got anyone in their sort of junior ranks
Yeah.
that could do it, I'm not too sure. But I mean, we've seen
Mm.
from Extreme E so far, they've just seemed to pick drivers who are either up and coming or have got racing credential. Because obviously, Jenson Button's got his own team; he's racing for them.
Yeah.
Um, we're talking earlier about X44, Lewis Hamilton's team has got
Yeah.
Sebastian Loeb. I'll get it right this time. Sebastian Loeb, not Sebastian Ogier, and Christina Gutierrez. And then Rosberg have got Molly Taylor and I can't remember.
Oh,
Is it Johan
I've
Christopherson?
got it.
Is it
Christopherson, yeah, that's
Christopherson?
it.
Yeah. So
That team has had a
from the
very,
world, yeah,
very good. They've performed very well.
yeah, they're probably the best team so far because they've got two. Christopherson's a world rallycross champion. Molly Taylor, I think, has won local rallies in Australia, Australia rally champion or something along those lines. And I think a name like McLaren is completely out of their comfort zone, really,
Yeah.
because they've been racing in F1 for about 70 years now, I think, at least. Um, Around about 70 years. And I mean, obviously Jenson Button's got his own team, but rallying is completely different to Formula One. You're racing on loose, I think it's in Greenland, the next one as well. So snow, ice, rocks,
Oh.
that sort of stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah, F1 circuit racing is completely different to rallying for obvious reasons. And I assume they'll pick a rally champion or rally driver, or
Yeah.
rallycross, something along those lines. But we just can't speculate
Somebody.
as to who
Yeah.
it's going to be because we just have no idea. It could be
Yeah.
anyone really.
Somebody with a lot of rally experience. As for who it will be, we don't know. But
No idea.
yeah, yeah. Um. Yeah. I guess we've pretty much come to the end. So
Yeah,
just to
I
wrap
think
it
so.
up, this weekend, we've well today we've got Euros. So football fans, if you want to watch Euros today, we've got France against Germany in the evening, and also Hungary against Portugal. So that's football for you. But motorsport, Formula One, Formula E kicks off this weekend. Formula One in France with the Paul-Ricard with the horrible, or not horrible, it's just not so nice looking blue and black runoff area, which is making my eyes spin.
I know it's weird. It's hurting my brain.
Yeah. And also Formula E in Mexico in Puebla. I think I've said
Puebla.
it right. Puebla. So I have been your host, Samuel Oni, and and it's a goodbye from me. Bye bye. It's a goodbye from Wes,
Bye bye.
and see you soon and enjoy the races this weekend.
Okay.